Hey guys, welcome back. It's me, Jared, and today we are going to be talking about Superman the movie from 1978, directed by Richard Donner. And I am talking about this movie because, of course, we have another Superman movie coming just around the corner, and I wanted to revisit this original film here and talk about it, as well as a couple of the other Superman movies that I've been really wanting to talk about on this channel. So anyway, let's get started and talk about this fantastic movie that really is ingrained in our culture and is one of the finest examples of what a superhero movie can be. Before we get into that though, I do want to bring up some of the interesting history that I found out while researching this movie in particular, and that when this movie was originally conceived and when Dick Donner was originally tapped to direct the film, the script was written by Mario Puzo of The Godfather fame, and it was a huge, gigantic, epic script that was, of course, going to be split into two films. That was from the get-go what was going to happen. And so Dick Donner was intrigued by the humanity of this screenplay. However, eventually this script got completely reworked and rewritten, and it eventually became more farcical, and Dick Donner did not really appreciate it that much. He felt that what he was wanting to say with this film was completely torn apart and turned into a comedy of sorts. And I feel like they really went for the comic nature of the word comic instead of comic book. And eventually he did get some rewrites done with a different screenwriter to try to sway it back and bring it into that original concept with the Mario Puzo script. But still, it's interesting nonetheless that Superman went through so many drastic changes, and obviously when we get to the theatrical cut of Superman 2, we might get to see a little bit of maybe what they were really trying to do with that initial rewrite of Superman. Now, when Dick Donner made this movie, it was obviously going to be split into two films. This was a humongous screenplay, and it was just such a big movie to fit into one singular film. And that ended up being kind of what ended up breaking this film a little bit, because Dick Donner spent so much money on this movie, and we have actors like Marlon Brando in the film that really put the budget into question. And so when the first Superman movie was being finished up and they were releasing it, they decided to fire Dick Donner and replace him with Richard Lester to finish Superman 2 and cut out a bunch of things and rework the film into something completely different, because they didn't want to have to pay Marlon Brando and they wanted a cheaper product overall. And so that is how we get two very distinct part twos, unless you count the much later revision of Superman 2 with the Richard Donner cut, which tries to bring that original film back into what Dick Donner was originally trying to say with the second film. So because of all of this, Superman the movie ended up having its ending changed, and as we talk about it, I think the ending was for the better, because the ending of Superman the movie is one of the most powerful endings for a superhero film that I've really ever seen, and it works so well for the themes of this story going forward. So, anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's really get into talking about this movie. Now, the thing is, there's so many different things about Superman the movie that make it absolutely fantastic and why people hold it up in such high regard. And so I will just briefly go over some of the highlights that I have for what makes this movie so great. And first of all, I have to say, it's the cast. You have such fantastic performances from Christopher Reeves, who is truly the embodiment of Superman and has become what we see Superman is for generations. And it's really hard to get away from that. Obviously, we've had iterations since then that have tried to mix it up, but everybody just keeps going back to Christopher Reeve because of how iconic and how whimsical and loving that portrayal really is. And it really does stick with you from beginning to end. This is a fantastic performance from a great actor, and it's why I think Superman ends up working so well. It's through the charisma of his performance. But we also have Margaret Kidder as Lois Lane, who is wonderful in this film. She might even be my favorite character. She's just headstrong, really just a powerful symbol of what a female character could be at this point in time. Obviously, we have had a lot of advancements in the portrayal of female characters throughout the years, and this still is in the right direction. She commands the screen with every scene that she's in. She's wonderful, and her camaraderie with her co-stars and chemistry with Christopher Reeve cannot be denied. And then, of course, we have the late, great Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, who is not necessarily the most iconic version of this character, but plays it so wonderfully that you just have such a blast with the character. He's fun, he's conniving, and you can't help but enjoy how wickedly evil he can be. Just a really great performance overall. And there's a ton of other smaller performances throughout the film from characters like Jimmy Olsen and Jor-El and Pa Kent that are so wonderful and important to the story that it's just really great watching it. I also think that the story overall resonates with so many people. The tagline of this movie was, "You would believe a man could fly." And I feel like it really does do exactly that. You might see some of the blemishes with the special effects nowadays, but you really feel the power within the story and the characters, and that is what makes you believe that a man can fly. You see all these amazing things, and it makes you believe it because the story is so well told and so grounded, because it truly is about a man trying to find his place in the world and figuring out what he needs to do to save the world. He has all of these powers, and he will try his best to use them for the greater good, to do things and help the people of Earth. And it's really a heartbreaking story, especially when we get to the first 40 minutes of the film, which I'll go to in a little bit. But continuing on, of course, the movie has charm in millions. This movie, just the likability of the performances, the characters, everything about it screams a different time where things were just more optimistic. And being that this film took place in the 1970s and was released during that time where a lot of dark and gritty films were being made, a lot of realism. This takes us back to a time where maybe things were simpler. And the thing is, things were never simple. But Superman portrays this rose tinted world that the people of America at the time wanted to hearken back to. And I think that the film's tone, though it can be serious at times, it has humor, it has a lightness to it. And I think that makes the film really, really well done because you can be serious in a film, you can be lighthearted, but blending the two can be very difficult at times. And I think that this movie is able to accomplish that with setting up a beginning that has its roots in a very deeper, darker kind of story that gives a lot of gravitas to the narrative. But as we bring in these lighthearted elements and these kooky characters, we begin to blend these together into something I think really stands the test of time. So anyway, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the film and talk about this beginning, which is basically a biblical fable that we have seen many times before. There's connections to the story of Moses and the story of the baby Jesus, and we combine these all together into a brand new narrative, a brand new fable for comic books with the birth of Superman and his emergence on Earth. We see the destruction of Krypton and what that means for the survival of the Kryptonian race when Superman, Kal-El, is brought to Earth and is the only surviving son of Jor-El. Jor-El is basically the god figure of this story. We see this big, glowing giant head when Superman visits the Fortress of Solitude. And in a sense, he is the god figure of the film, and Superman is the savior. There is a lot of biblical connections that people tend to bring into the Superman story, and it's very easy to understand why because of its very obvious connections. And sometimes I think filmmakers have gone a bit too far with this imagery to the point of it becoming farcical. However, I think Superman the movie does a very good job of painting this story in a very believable way that pays homage to those original biblical stories without overshadowing it with just hammering it home like that Superman is Jesus. He is Moses. It doesn't do that for me at all. And I think that's what makes this movie so much more clever than other iterations that we would get in the future. And then we continue on with a fantastic first act that really gets you to understand who Superman is through the eyes of Clark Kent. Because you cannot have Superman without the character of Clark Kent, because that truly is who Superman is. And the young actor that they got to play a young Clark Kent is phenomenal. And in all honesty, he truly could have been the full-on star of this movie. I think he has so much charisma and he feels like a young Christopher Reeve. And I just really love these early moments in Smallville, seeing him basically being bumbling and not being able to show off what he is truly capable of. And I think that is why that scene with Pa Kent is so well done, because he sees his son as something truly special, but he doesn't know quite sure yet why he is here, why he was sent here, but he knows that he has a purpose and he needs to go out there eventually and figure that out for himself. And with the death of Pa Kent, we truly begin to see the unraveling of Superman, because he even questions the fact that he has all of these powers. He has the ability to run as fast as a speeding bullet, to fly, to use all of these different powers. However, he cannot save his loved ones from dying. And that is his greatest defeat right there. He couldn't save his father from the simplicity of a heart attack. And I think it makes that moment so powerful that when he finally decides to go out on his own, figure out who he is, and become Superman, it's one of the best origin stories that has ever been told for a superhero film and a superhero just in general when we look at the comics as well. It's so well done here and really is the heart of the film. And then we tie that in with the film's climax with the death of Lois Lane, and we see how heartbroken Superman is over this. It's his biggest connection to the world outside of his family. And what does he do? Through his sadness and his anger, he does something that even his father Jor-El said that he can't do. He is not allowed to change history. He's not allowed to alter the course that was set upon these people. However, in his anger, in his love, he is able to turn back time, which is a superpower that I'm pretty sure he doesn't even have in the comics. And he is able to reverse time to be able to save Lois Lane, his true connection to the people of Earth, the one person that might truly understand him at a point. And you really just get to see what he has at stake here. The people of Earth is his kryptonite. That is where he gets his strength. It's not from the sun, it's not from his powers, it's from the people that he chooses to love and save. And it makes that ending so impactful when he reverses time and saves the day. It is just phenomenal. I absolutely love that moment. And we finally get the answer to what his purpose is. It is to truly save us and be a guardian for the earth and to love it and cherish it. And I just think that's phenomenal. I love it. And you know what I also love? I love the score for this movie. John Williams' score is obviously immortalized. People absolutely adore this, and we can't seem to escape it. The music is whimsical, it's powerful, it's energetic, and it gives you a sense of wonder. That feeling of being Superman, that feeling of seeing somebody so wonderful and out of this world that it can only be seen as a very religious experience. I think John Williams did a fantastic job with this score, and it really underlines just some of the best moments of the film, from the big and bombastic to the much quieter, somber moments as well. I think Superman the movie just does a very good job of making the character relatable. There's just always been this stigma that Superman is extremely unrelatable. How can we relate to an alien? And Man of Steel was a movie that tried to answer that, but I feel like it was answered in 1978 and even answered in the comics. He is just like any of us. He grew up on Earth. He had his trials, his tribulations, his loves, his wants, his hates, and we all experience that. And I think you really need that first 40 minutes to really show that he is one of us. And I think that is what makes him so relatable. The fact that he says that he has all those powers and he can't save his dad. Sometimes things happen and we don't understand why they happen, but they do, and we can't do anything about it. Life just happens sometimes. And that is such a relatable moment. Obviously, it's changed by the ending of the movie when he is able to go back through time. But in that moment, it truly is relatable. Ultimately, I want to kind of bring up this. There is a statement throughout the film, and I think being the 4th of July is the perfect time to bring it up. Superman says that he is about truth, justice, and the American way. And Richard Donner, when making this movie, said that he wanted to bring that into Superman because Superman is the golden example of truth, justice, and the American way. And what does that actually mean? And truly, I talked about this earlier in the review. We have rose-tinted glasses of what we see the past being. We look at what America was founded on, this idea that we could be greater than ourselves, that we have the ability to be whoever we want to be. We can create a nation from nothing and become something truly special. The United States, when it was founded, was very unique. It was something of an ideal to strive towards. And I think that, in a way, it harkens back to it. Superman is a golden example of what we can strive to be if we are good to each other, love each other, and cherish each other. And I feel like it's just harkening back to the simplicity of human beings and that we should love and cherish each other. And I just don't see that in this world that we live in right now. Superman is an ideal, and we see throughout the film how much he loves the people and how much he is willing to sacrifice for them. And we see that love. And it's really hard to see that love that is throughout America at this point in time. We're so divided as a country, and there's so much hate. And I completely understand the hate. I have hatred too, but I also have love for my friends, my family, people I don't even know. And I think that is what the American way truly is and what Superman strives for. But that's just my takeaway from it. Overall, Superman the movie is phenomenal. It is a perfect film. It is the way to make a superhero film, especially in 1978, and it still holds up today. It has whimsical, fun moments. It has a fantastic central character and really is able to blend all of these serious, emotional moments in with the comedic and really tell a story that has stood the test of time. There's a reason why Superman the movie is still garnered as a classic to this day. It's phenomenal and just one of the best superhero films that I've ever seen. So obviously, it's no doubt in my mind that Superman the movie is a 9 out of 10. This is a perfect movie. There are moments that I could say don't age particularly well, but what is there is still great to pull from. It's always fun to revisit this film, and Christopher Reeve truly is the embodiment of that character that we love so much and has stood the test of time. But that's all I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And stay positive.